Hello, everyone. Welcome along to episode 12 of the GRL podcast. We're going to be reviewing Miami, the races, the sprint races, the qualifying, F1, F2, mixed, everything in between. It was a good week at Miami. It was interesting. There was lots of drama, lots of surprise winners, and a lot of changes in the championship, especially with those extra few points in the sprint races. But of course, as I am every week, I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Mr. Atom. How are you, Atom?
Hello, thank you. I'm really good. There were some interesting races in Miami, as you said. Minor changes in the overall constructors. I only remember McLaren being really strong throughout all the divisions, while Red Bull and Alfa Romeo struggled. Also, the F2 was a very interesting part. We're going to come to that later, obviously. First of all, we're going to talk about the F1 races and, some interesting changes and much drama as America likes it to. Sadly, Netflix wasn't with us, but I guess we'll do their part for now and go through all the action just right now.
Yes, definitely. And I think we just go straight into it, don't we, with Division 1, quite frankly. And to be honest, it was... Oh, actually, no, we'll have a quick look at where we are in the season on the calendar beforehand. You can see we're at the bottom of that left-hand column, around 10, at Miami, second sprint race of the season after the first one in Portimao. And yeah, it's interesting. It's exciting to see that we're nearly at the halfway point of the season. We're getting through it, and the championships really are developing well. So let's get on with Division 1 then. And in Division 1, your winner was NVR Arthur. I don't think really anybody saw that coming, to be honest. It really was quite a surprise. And if anything, that photo of Lando Norris that you provided there is a perfect description of how a lot of us were feeling after that race, because we really didn't see that coming. B Ford took his first podium of the season as well in second. Drazzy did well in third. Gary the Goat came home in fourth. Good result for him. He's back. Partick is back as well in fifth. Got a Gaming is back in sixth. Blade seventh, and then Rachel Gilly and Michael eighth, ninth, and 10th. But it really was a surprise, wasn't it? Really, some of those results.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, if you have predicted the top six like that, you're definitely a very interesting person because that podium is a pure mix of everything we've had this season with Arthur, who is sitting around third, fourth all race, and suddenly sees the top two having a bit of a kerfuffle ahead of him, and suddenly wins the race. I mean, he didn't make mistakes. He kept it consistent without penalties as well. Stayed out on the mediums after the late safety car because he probably knew that it's going to be some kind of mess behind him, and kept his nose clean. So that's definitely well done by him. Beeford, finally he gets the podium. I mean, it's about time, and with Drazzy behind him as well, those two know each other obviously. They're both in the championship fight again after Drazzy winning last week around Hungary. He's back with another podium, so that's definitely great for him. And the two classes picking up solid points. Happy for Gary, happy for God of Gaming, because they had a tough time in the last couple of weeks. Also, Partick once again in the top five after P4 in Hungary. So maybe his season is going a slightly better way from now on. And there's a blatant rage down there. They could have won both, but they crashed into each other, which wasn't ideal. And actually, the second time I believe that Blade gets taken out in a fight for P1 after Spa. Considering the championship, I mean, due to Sora not being in the points, B4 is now second, only 15 points behind him, with Drazzy and Blade behind them in the two Williams cars. I mean, it's good for the championship. Finally, they're back in within the 25 points, at least B4 is, and it gives the championship definitely a second life, if you can say it like that. Behind they've got Michael Dale, Rage, Partick, who are really fighting for the best of the rest, because Rain struggled recently, Ninja couldn't turn up weekly. So if this continues at some stage, probably Partick will find himself in P5 in the championship, which would be a tough call, but could happen for sure. And last but not least, I mean, Williams suddenly lead the constructors from Red Bull, so they've jumped them and gapped Alfa Romeo with it. So good for them. And yeah, also McLaren jumped up with the win with Arthur. So that was definitely a hectic but a very interesting and maybe championship defining weekend.
Yeah, and I totally have to agree with you there, on that. Mainly because there wasn't much going on in terms of I don't know how I'm trying to word this. I think what I'm trying to say is that there was a lot of activity in the championship that we wouldn't necessarily expect with that, with that Arthur win and B Ford suddenly getting that first podium of the season with Sora not being able to score. So I really think it has really just kicked this championship into life. And with the constructors, just a bit of a melee, really. Only Alfa Romeo held their position. Williams went up into the lead, Red Bull go down, Mercedes and Alpine now tied, McLaren jump up very nicely with the win for Arthur, and then it's just AlphaTauri at the bottom has managed to get themselves off the bottom. So it really was quite an enthralling race, and I really hope we get more races like that in the next few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. But Division One is definitely a very interesting division. But after all things that happened here, I guess we just go further into Division Two, where a lot of things happened as well.
Yes, so let's have a look at Division 2. Jackster was your winner in Division 2. He won the race from Slapbus, your championship leader. Then Clever came third. Yourself, Atom, you came fourth. Dylan Baxter, fifth place for the Alfa Romeo team. Then Distant Bard, Lloyd, Panosh, Otto, and Optical rounding out your points paying positions. And I mean, with the championship again, it's catapulted Jackster up into third, but right behind his teammate Distant Bard. Alpine again moving up closer to Ferrari, so it really is heating up. You're now into the top 10 in Division 2, aren't you? So you're going nicely as well. But it's just Division 2, especially the race for second, really is hotting up, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and as we know, since this week, this could potentially have been the last Division 2 race of Slappers, whether he decides to. Until round 14, he'll now move up to Division 1, as it's formally agreed terms with the Ferrari party, as he replaces Odomura in Division 1. And yeah, technically, if Distant wins the next four races, he leads the championship. Uh, Same with Jackster. So yeah, this could now really be a very interesting battle for P1 in the driver's standings, because Jackster is on top form. Wouldn't count a Distant Bar because I finished into the point in the points almost every race. Lloyd is on good form as well. Otto has been up there all the way. Same with Panosh, and Clever, me, and Dan. Same with Delta. Just looking to catch up to those. So it's definitely interesting season so far, and maybe now we have a great battle for the championship with it on our hands too. I mean, Slappas got beaten by Jackster as the raindrops came in the end, and we were all on Intis. So great drive from Jackson, I have to say. He forced Slappers into a mistake, one of his first mistakes of the season, and wins back-to-back races. Really important for Alpine. Division 2 is really helping Alpine in the overall constructors as well. Sorry. And Clever picks up his third podium of the season, I believe. Something around that. Just beats me to it because we both got damage, actually, in the greasy conditions, which didn't help. Dylan Baxter, solid second race in P5. Distant Bard after starting P17 after the sprint race. Up to P6, very, very great race from him. He beats Amos Lloyd, so no loss for Alpine compared to the Aston Martin driver. Panosh, probably one of the quickest, if not the quickest driver of the weekend, only in P8 due to poor strategy call. Otto in P9 and Optical in P10 as said. And if you look at the team standings, especially if you consider that Slappas now goes up for a couple of races, Alpine might have their chance now to grab this constructors title, because they have almost 70, even more than 70 points gap to the guys behind, with Red Bull, Aston Martin, and Mercedes. And yeah, I think the Alpine duo is really gunning for the constructors championship now.
Yeah, definitely. And it really is going to develop into a very interesting championship, I feel. So then, Division 3 is our next focus. As I'm trying to find which one is the correct. Oh, there it is. There we go, Division 3 here. And we're going to mention that SLR Ham was the winner. Jobbo came in P2, that's really good for his championship, and SLR Jam in P3, Ham and Jam continuing their really good run of form. AJ Nolan in 4th, Geeked in 5th, it's Fred finished in 6th, Alex on the PC, well, he may not be on the PC, but Alex PC, finished in 7th, Lennon, Croaky and Mango rounded out the top 10, but realistically, that race was all about the abilities of Jobbo to nearly put himself into the official lead of the championship. Of course, Crappy moved up to Div 2, so Jobbo is officially in the lead, but he's so close to taking that officially, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's doing well, but of course, this is probably the same like we had with Jam and Ham in Division 4 earlier this season, where we said at one stage, Hops probably has the edge over everyone because he had to push so hard to keep up with the SLR guys to improve his skill of, and I think the same thing is happening with Jobber right now. He has to give it everything, every single lap and every single session to just keep the gap as big as he can, especially with Luca pretty much retiring, and Ham seems to be the faster of the two SLR guys. Has got the next win under his belt now, so the SLR guys are definitely picking up the race wins, and Jobber kind of does it with a damage limitation so far with a second place. So he's really doing well so far. And I think next race he will take the championship lead and with it officially. And but yeah, he definitely has to keep an eye out for Ham and Jam, because I think at some stage they will knock on his door and say, "Give me that championship lead, it's mine." So that's going to be very, very interesting for sure. But also if someone else like AJ Nolan, Geekin, or Lennon and Wildy Mango, those had a couple of decent last 2 races. Maybe they can pick up a race win at some stage and mix it all up as well. So as we say pretty much every week, let's wait and see what happens in the drivers, while in the constructors, Jobbo has put it all to work as AlphaTauri finally, once again, actually takes the championship lead. 13 points clear now of Haas. Williams gained a lot of points because of SLR Ham, and Alfa Romeo on 117 now because of SLR Jam. So we all know where those points come from, and that's pretty much Division 3 this week.
Yeah, I mean, Division 3 is one of those divisions where it really looks like it's heating up, especially with Ham and Jam making ground, especially. And in Div 4, in the end, it ended up being a great result for Ronnie, who took the win in his McLaren car. Jacob Brown took P2, Jamie Hops in P3, Michelle P4 for the Williams team, and Erna came home 5th. It's a very good result for McLaren, taking home at least, I can't remember the sprint race points, but they took home at least 35 points from the Grand Prix. Krigmit in 6th, Andrew in 7th, and Jaden in 8th, with Rex and Lewis 9th and 10th. And with the championship, it puts Ronnie a little bit, well, quite a bit higher, really, in the championship. Andrew's still plodding along nicely, and Jacob Brown up there as well, but it hasn't been a good week, really, for Hops and Rex in terms, well, I mean, Hops still got that podium, but Rex only got 9th, and McLaren have gained ground in the Constructors' Championship, so it's starting to brew, isn't it, here in Div 4?
Definitely, yeah. You might call me mad now, but in the last couple of races, I also thought like Division 4 is probably the division I'm most interested in, because there's so many drivers now who can actually win races. I mean, Andrew himself said he does not know why he is in P5 in the championship, because he should never be there. Doesn't even think he's within the top 10 drivers in this division. This really says it all. Hops is leading the championship with 0 race wins. Rex, I think, got 1 race win, but also has these couple of bad results creeping in. Jacob Brown has an allergy against winning races because he finished P2 4 races in a row now. Ronnie gains massively this time, so that's great for him, and wins back-to-back races for McLaren. So that's probably why they gained in the overall constructors as well. And I think also Ronnie could probably challenge for a title here, especially if Hobbs doesn't get on with it. Ern also gained points, same as Lewis. No, sorry, Mike, Michelle. So it's all very close in the midfield here. So will be definitely very interesting in the next couple of rounds, especially if McLaren keep the form up. I think that's already the second McLaren win this week after Division 1, as we talked about earlier, with NV Arthur. And in the team standings, of course, Ferrari still leads the one in the driver standings. Of course, they're leading the constructor standings with it.
Yeah.
McLaren gain points, and as said, I think AlphaTauri and McLaren, they got probably the two quickest drivers right now, which are Ronnie for McLaren and Jacob Brown for AlphaTauri. And I think we've got a good three-way fight in here as well. And as I said with the overall constructors earlier, AlphaTauri are clearly last, and with Jacob Brown, they got a really competitive addition to their roster, let's say. And I hope for them that they can really catch up to the mid pack in there as well.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how if he can help their progression. But enough about Div 4, we'll move on to Div 5 now, and we'll have a look at the fact that it was Lemon, Triangular Lemon, who took the win in Miami. It's been a while for him. EQWRA took P2, Boosted RB in third, rounded out the podium with Macca in fourth. But it's a 13-point swing for Lemons. Paloma 5th, Duncan in 6th, Heike 7th, Jays Creek, Mashallah and Gaza Buchanan round out your top 10. And there you go. Jakob, of course, got moved up to Div 4. So Lemon does take the lead in the championship ahead of Macca by just 3 points. Ronnie Rosie has dropped down. Heike still plodding along. Same with Boosted. Same with Mashallah. Same with Jade Street. You've got your ever constants up near the front there, don't you? And they're still going strong. And then look at the Constructors Championship. McLaren, of course, pull away there with a very good result. But then Williams, AlphaTauri and Red Bull having a great scrap. Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo not far out of reach either. So it really is Div 5. With Jakob leaving has really opened it up, hasn't it?
Yeah, finally, Lemon. Finally. I think he hasn't won a single league race this game yet. And I actually can't remember him ever winning a league race. So that's great for him. I'm really happy that he finally gets his first win. He got pole, got the sprint race win, got the race win. I think didn't lose the lead for a single lap, but missed out to the fastest lap, sadly. But I think that's just a minor issues he had this week, considering that fastest lap point. But yeah, boosts him up in the standings once more and takes the Nat Championship lead. Macca had a tough race, you have to say, though. I mean, he was championship leader before, was disconnected pretty much the whole sprint, and just joined back midway through in the technically main race we had at Miami, and still fought himself back up to P4, and you could see it. He was driving with anger after that disconnect. He was making moves every lap. And yeah, but at the end of the day, that's the drive that probably win your championship in the end, because compared to others, he didn't give up. He just fought like a man and got himself almost up into a podium. So good for him. Also, once again, back-to-back podiums for Boosted RB and a podium for Aqua, which we all know is Archie on his comeback race. That's definitely a nice thing. And once again, McLaren and AlphaTauri are really doing well. And despite Lemon and Macca really being up top here technically now, I think Heike, Boosted, Mashallah, Chase Street, those are really drivers you should keep an eye on, because they're within 6 points, those 4 drivers. And if Macca and Lemon have the one or other contact situation, I think they definitely can capitalize from that. And as you can see also in the constructor standings, I mean, of course, McLaren are clearly ahead now. But Lemon also often has a bad qualifying, so this could mix it all up. And from Alpine in second down to Red Bull in seventh, it's only 36 points. That's, if I'm not completely wrong, less than a 1-2. So it's definitely still all to play for.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more with you. That's probably the most I've ever agreed with you on that one. But that's Div 5, and it really is an interesting one. Div 6, then we'll move on to... there we go. You'll see it. There you go. Echo ended up winning in Div 6. I love that photo of Magnussen. But anyway, Echo wins in Div 6. Dan Gamer P2. Fuzzy Fox P3. 10th Cannon in 4th. Good result for the Alfa Romeo cars, 5th and 6th. Just, yeah, granted, only 18 points, but still plodding along. Simon Deff comes home 7th, Jay Tilbin 8th. Halloumi, I'm going to call him in 9th, and Ace Guy in 10th with the 1 point that he had earned. And in the end, it shows just how far... Yes, Echo, I thought it was, is just pulling away now at the top of the standings. It's helped Haas jump to the top of the constructor standings as well, but there really isn't much in it. Look at that, 4 teams within just 8 or 17 points, that is. And you feel that the real focus for Div 6 at the moment is the constructors, because the drivers, it feels like it's going away from everyone else and towards Echo, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Echo is really doing well. He's one of my championship picks from start of the season, so at least one of them is kind of doing what I want them to, because the others, we have to say, went horribly wrong. But yeah, he's definitely deserving this championship lead for now. 10th Cannon didn't have the best of weekends, but it wasn't terrible either. And the drivers is as of yet, like Division 1, seeming kind of clear who will come out on top. But the constructors, it's amazing. Haas and Mercedes have like one really good driver each, but the second one is just leaving them at points. While Alpine and Aston Martin really got 2 really good driver duos. While Aston Martin have a Callum Ludlow, who got 2 podiums in the last 3 races, or something like that. And Alpine with Daps Gamer and 10th Cannon, who even got a race win at Hungary with 10th Cannon. Alpine likes that sort of track, as it seems. And Daps Gamer also picking up really solid points, plus a podium at Abu Dhabi some weeks ago. They're also really pushing forward. So even though the drivers is a bit boring at this stage, I think the constructors battle is really, really interesting, because when do you actually have 4 teams fighting for the title?
Yeah, exactly. It really is looking exciting. I do think that the constructors in Div 6 may also make an impact on the overall constructors come the end of the season.
Definitely, definitely. Those are the divisions where I need to capitalize from others. Funnily enough, Dan Gamer didn't mention him in the AlphaTauri, another podium for AlphaTauri. So that's helping them in the overall constructors. So yeah, definitely an interesting division, as said, and probably in the shadow of some others. But this might change in the future, I think.
Agreed. Definitely agreed. Now then, on to our final division, which is Division 7. And in Division 7, MC Messi took the win for Ferrari. Feels like we're back at round 1 and 2, where Ferrari taking the wins. MG comes home P2, good result again for McLaren, 3rd and 5th with Kieran and Sancho. RL Marley came home 4th, Bud Racing 6th, Clown in 7th, Wargasm 8th, Browns the Bunts in 9th, and Drizzy picks up 1 point for 10th. To the championship, it means that MC Messi moves up closer to the front guys, but Kieran does leapfrog J-Tilb to lead the championship once again. Not much really going on in terms of the constructors, but I mean, if you look at the midfield there, Marley went above 3 drivers, but he's on 41.5. Drizzy's on 41, Chicken Rosary's on 41, Wargasm's on 40. So it is incredibly close down there in the midfield, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Division 7, I think you couldn't really say close. I think it's complete a mess down there. Not negatively, obviously, but it's just so close. And it really depends on where you start, what happens, the safety cars, because we all know there are many safety cars in Division 7 usually. And this week, I mean, he showed some glimpses of his pace at Hungary last week, but Messi finally takes the win. I thought he would probably be better at playing football than driving a F1 car, but apparently he's quite decent driving a Ferrari around Miami, so that's definitely well done by him. MG, which is obviously Matthew, also podium after P5 at Hungary, so he's keeping the good results up. And Kieran would have finished P4, but Marley got the penalty. That's why I dropped off the podium. Not too good for Marley, but yeah, I think you can accept that Kieran probably was a quicker drive on that day anyways. Sancho in P5, a newcomer, Spot Racing in P6. That's good for him. And Clownbuggers and Brownspans and Drazy with them. In the driver standings, as you said, Kieran leads by quite a margin, but as said, in Division 7, it can all change very, very quickly. It's Bright didn't have the best of races, didn't pick up any points this week. Messi, as said, closes them down. Same as MG, but I think he's almost 100-point gap to P1. So even though we're just at the halfway point of the season, I think his championship charge might be a bit too late for him at this stage. But I think it's currently between Kieran and Sprite, and possibly Clipscam and McMessy. So that's definitely interesting at this rate. And you said the constructors are boring. I think they're quite interesting because McLaren, of course, the lead by 30 points exactly with Kieran, but Rangers, the second driver, hasn't turned up recently. And the Ferrari seem to pick up the wins now. So I think this could also be a very, very interesting championship for the next couple of races. And we'll see if the prancing horse jumps high enough to catch the papaya from the trees.
Yeah, definitely. And Div 7 will always be one to look at, just because it's Div 7, really, isn't it? But aside from that, and after the F1, we've always got the best division of the lot, haven't we? Division 2. And nothing can beat Division 2, quite frankly, can it? Division 2, sorry, Formula 2. What am I talking about? Formula 2. Formula 2 at Miami. And how did that go, Adam? Can you give us the lowdown?
I mean, quali is usually the most boring part, isn't it? You just see myself qualifying in P6 as I always do, and Blade on P1. That's pretty much qualifying. And then we go into a sprint race where usually Sparky starts up top, and I think he did again with Brown Spans. At the end, it was pretty much a shootout between Blade and myself because Dara distant barred and someone else, Gibson. How do I forget Gibson? Sorry, Gibson. Well caught up in traffic. And we had our 4-lap battle, which you definitely should watch the Twitch of Adam Reed on Twitch, because that was one of the best, if not the best battle we have ever had in this league. Definitely in Div 2. I'll say, it's your fault. F2, not Div 2. And at the end, later, actually, they beat me by 49 milliseconds, which wasn't the best, but considering that amazing battle we had for almost 5 laps, I definitely take P2 because that was just a joy to race and even bigger joy to watch. And in the feature race, we had some rain, we had dries on, and we didn't know why we had dries on, but the dries weren't too slow. But yeah, that's only half the story. I mean, I remember Dara put on the softs from the start.
It was a genius strategy.
It was, to be fair, it was free ride into turn 1. I wasn't really planning to turn into my teammate, so I was very nice. Let him through. The softs weren't even much quicker. They were just great off the line, which gave you P1. I was in P2, Blade in P3, and I think Gibson P4, Bart P5. But then as the rain hit a couple of laps in, we had some interesting strategy plans. Let's say it like this. Dara put on the wets as soon as he could. I think only 1 or 2 laps after Mark told us to.
Yeah.
Blade and myself stayed out because apparently it should have dried up at the end. It has, but I just pitted for wets when it went dry, which was a very smart decision. Very calm and composed by myself there. But in the end, Dara wins from distant Bard, I believe, and Blade in 3rd, myself in 4th, Gibson in 5th. And don't ask me about the rest because, with all respect, I think that's the most important positions.
And yeah, no, exactly. And the championship is really hot, isn't it? I'm glad I was able to pick up that win because I close in a bit. But it'll just keep that championship will just keep running all the way through the season, and I am absolutely here for it. But that's about it then, isn't it, for the Miami Grand Prix? Thank you to everyone who's watched, listened along. And we will be back next week for what will be the Japanese Grand Prix podcast. And we'll be reviewing everything that's gone down at Suzuka. But before then, we will hope you enjoy watching the action in Suzuka. And we will see you next week for the next edition of the GRL podcast.